in the raw. Arrears, Guyana Free Media. Your friend, your brother, Haji Dr. Ocean King. Very important matter, ladies and gentlemen, in the raw. Some time ago, I noticed something, and I got many calls when VP Jack Dio made an announcement about security companies and others who are actually stealing the NIS of their workers. Yes, actually stealing, committing fraud. And this is a campaign I have been on for decades. From the PNC Desmond Hoyt era all the way through up to recent times. And when this thing was published, I got many calls saying, like, somebody heard you. I'm a man, I just like to get my credit. And I have even given some ideas when the people are stealing the NIS, how and what to do. Just, first of all, they had an attitude, that is, the NIS, and in tandem, the government will get them to try to get them to pay, but they would never pay. The same company that is mentioned here, Sentinel, it was mentioned here in the newspaper. In the past, it had another name, which was COPS, and it had big problems with the income tax and the NIS department for the 20 years or so it operated under the name COPS. It never paid any PAYE taxes. It never paid NIS. And then it would pay a very small amount. And there was another company, something called UAS and DS, which is now defunct, stole billions of NIS from the workers, and they could never get a benefit. They will never pay the workers on time because they felt for about 7 years they had a special protection scheme in which they could operate before the government contracts could have been tendered to the public, because it was a union, so to say. And now, I mean, they've stolen so much from the workers, and they folded up and they gone under. And all the people now will be looking to the government for survival because the NIS was not paid in. And the NIS was very, very lackadaisical. And I was told when I'm querying, oh, they are trying to get the people to pay, and they will sign agreement, but they will never pay. The same company, Sentinel, signed agreements in its former name and would never pay. There was another guy who won all the 10 regions a number of years ago, all 10 security for all 10 regions, maybe about 5,000 security guards, and behaving crazy and telling the guards, you don't have to worry, you walk with me, you know, I'm in a charge, you're not gonna get no discipline. If you sleep now, no problem for you, for Abby, and you can sleep, and so on. And he was getting a kind of a protection until they realized what this man was doing, and he was using his friends in high places because he claimed he grew up with them. And he has stolen literally billions of NIS from the workers. And then he developed a technique. He would pay for 100, whereas he was employing 5,000 because he was getting all the government contracts. He was tendering below cost, and some of the money was supposed to have been divided with certain friends and so on. They were not getting their part, and they were kind of annoyed with him eventually. So I just want to share that with you all, ladies and gentlemen. This thing of NIS is a big thing. The rice millers, the biggest one who went bankrupt. And when you do these kinds of things, you have to suffer. Who went bankrupt eventually and lost the biggest rice mill that is known, never paid the workers NIS and their taxes, and the workers were left to the mercy of life. I don't even want to say God. Many rice millers, many sawmillers, many businesses, and also, look, I don't have a problem with anybody doing business, the Chinese or whatever, but it is known that the Chinese is not paying NIS, nor paying the proper government wage. This is what all the workers are alleging. When I go around, they know me and they will talk that they are not being covered with NIS. So whether it's Indo-Guyanese or Indian or Afro-Guyanese or African or Caribbean people or anybody or Chinese people, they need to fulfill the law, the requirement of the law. The Chinese are my friends. But at the same time, the law must be fulfilled. Security firms pay over 200 million in backdated contributions to NIS. Now, what I had told them in the early days, for those of you who were following my articles over the decades, right, is that these people who are not paying, you're trying to get it from them and they still are not going to pay, and they still continue to steal. You have to charge them, but not with the Mickey Mouse charges that is allowed in the NIS. So if it was $50 fine or $5,000 fine or $500, it was profitable for them to do this kind of a hoodwinking of the authorities and the government. So I told the government, charge them, some of them, in a private criminal lawsuit. And once you advertise this, you will see the money start rolling in. The government announced, VP Jagdeo, that they could lose the contracts. But instead, what have they done? They're still not paying. And they had to be called in. So according to this article here, which I'll read to you in the raw, right? They had to call in 4 of them. There's another company, very well known, prominent in several other businesses, and people are calling all kinds of things on them. I don't know. People are calling all kinds of things on them, their friends, their relationship, their partnership. People are saying, I don't know. And they're getting a special protection. And they're tendering at times at cost or below cost. And people are claiming that this company is involved in money laundering. Because how could they operate at the rates they're charging? And when they charge high, they still get a contract. It's cause to worry, ladies and gentlemen. And for people like us, who have suffered, we have suffered over the decades because of people who are tendering below cost and who are stealing the workers' NIS and the workers' PAYE and their own part. We had one security company some years ago, the man even had a private jet. Or a private plane, maybe not a jet. So $200 million is nothing, VP Jagdeo, to what should really be paid. And you need to put a law that he can't even declare bankruptcy. Because Sentinel had already declared bankruptcy. Their books were seized so many times by NIS, but they got it back. Their books was as cops. Their books were seized so many times by the GRA, but they got it back. This is the reality of this country. And we are one of the few companies, maybe 4 or 5 companies, that truly pay the NIS as it should be paid amongst, it's alleged, 300 to 400 security services. Every day, security service cropping up with machine guns. We still can't get our 2 machine guns. We still can't get it. And I know why, but I will not do what some people want me to do. I will not do. I will never do. I will always stand for what is right and for what is law in this country. Friends and family, ladies and gentlemen, I will always stand with the rule of law. I suffer. My companies suffer. And I can't tender below cost or at cost. And I'm not in any kind of a money laundering scheme and nastiness. And I don't have no associate or no close relative whom I'm running the company for, who might have committed massive crimes overseas, caused suicide and even people murdered, went to jail, come back and operating underground. Yours truly is not involved in those kinds of things, ladies and gentlemen. This is the reality. Underground, but is really, these are actors playing on the surface. But the powerhouse, the Godfather, is underground. You don't see him and you don't hear him. And you don't see it at any social events, including diplomatic ones where they might have had the contract. You don't see them. So let me read this article, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy, Mr. VP, President Ali of Guyana. I've been telling you all this a long, long time ago. Now you all are taking action, and the word out there is that they have listened to you, Roshan. The National Insurance Scheme has collected over $200 million in backdated contributions for employees of security firms who fail to remit payments deducted from salaries to the agency. What about the owners of the security firms for self-employed? What about them? Back in June, Vice President Dr. Mara Jagdev announced that the government would clamp down on security companies engaging in such acts and terminate contracts with the state for those who fail to clear the backlog within a specific time frame. On Thursday, during his weekly press briefing, Jagdev announced that several entities have come forward with their employees' NIS contribution, and the administration is engaging others as the issue is prevalent among security service providers. Check also the sawmillers, the rice farmers, the 300 or so new business stores that have been opened up with very few Guyanese employees ever in them. They're not giving no employer and they're not paying no taxes. They find ways and means to hoodwink the entire system. They're charging VAT, but they're cashing on a separate register. And so you should know who I'm talking about and what I'm talking. We spoke with them in the security sectors. And if you don't pay in a particular period, you will lose your contract. And secondly, we will put it before the police. And also the police is the one who can actually take away your license by law. They have more law than the NIS, more law than the Security Association or the security minister. They have more power, ladies and gentlemen, the police. So far, 4 persons we have already had them pay over $200 million. They have to bring it up to date, all their back payments. 4 of the contractors who were supplying security services in a matter of 3 months, because we said to them that you are going to lose your license. Let me read that piece back. 4 of the contractors who were supplying security services in a matter of 3 months, because we said to them, so in 3 months they paid up. You got to check those new boys popping up every day, President Jagdev, and find out how they get the licenses. What was the criteria fulfilled? Was anything paid? And how come they get all those guns? Our kids can't get 2. We've been in business for 45 years. Commissioner, 45 years, and we can't get 2. What will be, but I will not do wrong things. Against this backdrop, the VP announced that NIS is reviewing security firms providing services to the state, and there will be consequences for those that engage in this practice going forward. Further, he explained that the government will very soon launch an investigation to collect outstanding payments from other security firms within the private sector as a means of ensuring that all Guyanese have access to all the benefits when they retire. And this is my point. Otherwise, they're coming to you for support. They're coming to the government. All the years, VP, Excellency President Ali, Minister Hamilton, for so many letters I've written. One gentleman, Dr. Jerry Jailal, quoted my letter. Another person quoted my letter. And the difficulties of people getting their benefits in this country. Let me go on. You can't be making deductions or not paying the NIS, and your employees can't secure benefits if they fall sick. It's illegal. You make the deductions and you don't pay it. And that's fraud, Mr. President. It's fraud. So that is something that will insist in government and even for private employers, he added. For years, security officers have been complaining bitterly about companies that they work for making NIS deductions but are not paying these over to the scheme, as well as the late payment of their salaries. Some people are paying extremely late for whatever reason. Harass them. It happened especially in Amsterdam. There is, I don't know, some strange people open security services. people running printery. So the printery, I'm not going to call the name, some printery security service, you know, some lollipop security service, some tamarind security service, some Guyana security service, some eggplant security service, some Cinderella security service. And they're just cheating the workers. The Ministry of Labour has had reasons in the past, the state security firms reminding them of the rights and entitlements of security guards, whether or not they are nationals of Guyana. Back in 2019, security officers attached to the radar security services and supplies in Region 2 had spoken out about their NIS contributions not being paid. Also, 3,427 were deducted from their salaries as NIS deductions. That's the radar, a man who I made general manager, and then all kind of nonsense, went to a certain kind of security company with a similar kind of name, and was involved in all kinds of skullduggery. And some of these heads of these security services, some of them, are known to be taking advantage of female workers, taking advantage of them sexually. There's another thing that needs to be looked at. More recently, however, security officers attached to the New Amsterdam branch of the Sentinel Security Inc. They were known as COPS Security, operating from the same place. After they declare bankruptcy, no money paid, no debt, everything right off. They operate in the same place with the same uniform. In Lamaha Street, ladies and gentlemen. This is open now so I could talk. In addition, some of the officers were forced to work extra hours and were not paid overtime. But on the other hand, several days' pay was deducted from their salaries if they reported sick for one day. Several of these officers had told the Guyana Times last year that they made a number of reports to the Region 6 office of the Ministry of Labour in New Amsterdam, but they were penalized for doing so. The company would punish them, fire them, terminate them. Same thing goes for that printery security service, something that has to do with printing. Some of them provided copies of documents from NIS which state that no contributions had been paid to the scheme for the period they claimed to have been working with the security firm. Can you believe that? Meanwhile, the National Insurance Scheme has been taking persons to court for non-compliance. But the court is petty. The fine is ludicrous. It's jokey. Some people prefer to pay the fine and then go scot-free, which includes not deducting NIS contributions from workers. They are also taken to court for not paying deduction contributions over to the scheme, or charge them for fraud if they deducted private criminal fraud charges, or bring in the police and let the police charge them for fraud. This must end in this country. I have another big one that I was fighting about people who missed one because of NIS fault, not given a chance to make up, but now the government is putting $10 billion, so we have to applaud. We have to applaud our government for putting in $10 billion to help to make up for the shortfall. I had suggested that. They're not giving me my credit, but I was the one who was suggesting that. Take one oil lift, take all the damn money, put it in NIS, make the people happy, and win elections forever. Your friend, your brother, me, Haji, Dr. Ocean Cat, in the raw. Say thank you.